Alright, response video to the modern mystic. And, this is a weird conversation in so many contexts, in so many ways. The differences of what's being argued between different people. And so here I'm arguing with somebody holding a tiny minority opinion, like 1 in 1,000 or something, I don't know. And in the converse argument, it's me against this huge majority monolith of crap. And it's just kind of, irritating. No matter where you go, you have to do this. It's, you're always arguing, and it just seems so futile because there's just so little progress made. But anyway, let's go through this. So, the other context I'd add to this is okay, from my theory of biology, the only saving grace to this conversation at all, the only hope the truth has, is this slim little thing that was created inside of us called empathy and love, the family gang warfare thing. If it wasn't for human beings being forced into this family thing, this group thing that made them stronger, because that's the only thing that created any kind of decency in us, in our biology. If it wasn't for that, we would be praying mantises, and I'd be having this conversation to other praying mantises and trying to explain to other praying mantises empathy and decency, and it would just be that much more difficult a conversation because they'd have no concept of empathy or caring, or it would just not exist in any form in their biology. I couldn't pull any kind of sympathy strings at all. I couldn't connect to anything like that in their brain. There'd be no correlate. Even a Tyrannosaurus, there might be some hope because, mother Tyrannosauruses might have hung around to raise their young a little bit. So they might have some kind of love for their eggs anyway, so you could at least connect that love for their children to some kind of love for the world or care for the rest of the world. You could explain to them how their children aren't the only children and somehow tug on a string that mattered. But without that little circumstance of evolution, this conversation with the antecondavods of the world would be even more difficult, because you wouldn't even have the ability to try to migrate their perception that little tiny bit. You'd have to migrate it a huge amount. So anyway, this argument with Nick so imagine that. Imagine I am in praying mantis hell, and I have actually successfully got them to understand, that their brain isn't the only brain, and their feelings aren't the only feelings, and it's important to care, and all this stuff. And then Nick, praying mantis, farts along, and he basically negates the whole game, and just says, oh, it doesn't matter if you torture everything. Go ahead, it just doesn't matter, because it's just universing. And you're like, what the fuck, what are you doing, you crazy bastard? You are so fucking the game. I finally got these fucking retards to acknowledge that their own welfare seems important to them, so I guess they goddamn ought to assume that the things they're eating goddamn are screaming when they're doing it, and they'd rather not have their fucking guts eaten while they're alive. And now you fart along and say it doesn't matter if your guts are getting eaten while you're alive. So this is my frustration in this conversation. Okay, just to explain. A little context. Second context. Alright, I've been really nice to Nick now, because there was a point in the past where I hurt his feelings, and I was insensitive and mean, and it hurt him, and he didn't like it, and he said, I'm going away now. And I don't want him to go away, okay, so I'm being gentle, because I know Nick is sensitive, and I'll drive him away if I'm too boorish and yobbish. And so I'm saying be nice to Nick, because Nick is sensitive, and you can't, well, yeah, I don't know how to paraphrase it exactly in a great way without being a little bit insulting, but yes, okay, so okay, I'll modify my behavior, because I like Nick. I'm sacrificing. I'm saying, Gary, okay, calm down, don't let him get to you, don't make him make you crazy, just so you don't overreact, and you don't say something you don't want to say, and you don't say it too harshly. Okay. So I'm doing all that, because he called me a yob once, too. I didn't like being called a yob. And so I said, hey, I don't want to be called a yob again, so I'm going to have to be more careful. And but he does it, which is really annoying. So he's done this before. Repeat till understood. Thank you very much. I understand your position. Okay, it's a reducto ad assertum, assertium or absurdism. Yes, you have reduced it to its pieces to eliminate all cohesive, recognizable bits, because if you concede the existence of the recognizable bits, you can't do what you want to do. Okay, I get it. If I pretend the car is just molecules, maybe I can just stand, it's mostly empty space. So maybe I can go out in the road, I can stand in front of it, and it'll go right through me, right? Because theoretically, it's more empty space than matter. So I should be able to go right in between all the empty spaces. Or something like that. So you're doing the philosophical correlate to, yes, you have reduced it till there's nothing left. You've dissected it you've taken the frog and you dissect it into cells, and then you said, well, I might as well break those down too. And then you break them down into molecules, and you break them down into nucleuses, and then you break it all down into little tiny quanta, and you have a big pile of quanta sitting there. You say, see, there's no frog. Yeah, well, there isn't if you annihilate it. If you take away all the things that are important, the arrangement. Yes, there's no frog. If there's no arrangement, there's no that indicates frog. There is no frog. That's right. If you disassemble the frog, there is no frog. True. All right. Well, anyway, so he does this thing: repeat till understood, which is really rude. I don't need to repeat it. I don't need to do this shit. Okay, in the very video I posted that this is a response to, that very video, in the first 3 minutes of that very video, I make it clear. And so I'm just going to do the same thing he did, which is play my video and then do this obnoxious crap on top of it. So here's that bit, and then I'll play his whole video, the new one, which is, forget about it.
Exist, or pain and suffering in relation to the person that doesn't exist. What is on this side is irrelevant if there is no person found, and I find no person.
Okay, you find no person.
Yeah,
So,
response video to the modern mystic
What
who
the
posted
fuck?
me a video to once again attempt explanation,
What the fuck?
communication between us on this
I'll fix
real
this.
problem. It's a really
I have to
big
fix
problem,
this.
but what are you going to do?
how did
of
this
why
happen?
he,
Whatever it is that happened.
Sees nothing to fear, nothing.
Repeat till understood. Oh, that's the beginning of Nick's video. See, so he played my video and played that game. Now, he could have played this clip. I'm going to find the clip. Yeah, sorry. Repeat till understood something. There. Okay, so let's just play this. So just remember, he just said, where's the person? I said this.
Is these programs that are part of a collection of programs that we call an entity, a me, a you, a person. I don't need to use the word person. I don't need to call my brain a person. I like to be able to just call it person, my brain. I like me brain. I like the notion of even changing my legal name to me brain. Me programs, me concepts, me ideas, me neurological networks, whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, I could add just me consciousness. Ooh. Yeah. So, you want to play with this word person like it's supposed to mean something to me? Well, go ahead and play with it, right? It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't have any freaking great definition of what a person is. But I know we're containers. Again, I said that in the video. I said the word me container. Okay? Should I say that again? We're containers. We're identifiable boundaries of function. Just like a clock is an identifiable boundary of function, and a truck is an identifiable boundary of function. So, come on. You can't sit there and play with a word like person and say, I have to provide you a person. Well, screw that. I'm not providing you a person. I'll provide you containers. I'll provide you devices. I'll provide you arrangements of matter that are capable of specific function. They do specific things, narrowly defined things. They do not just universe anymore. They only do a certain kind of universing, like a laser beam. Okay, so let's go to his new video. I won't bother trying to find the version already loaded. I'll just load a new version because I'm obviously a little bit scattered here. Anyway, but this is, yes, you talk about repeat. He just says the same shit over and over.
Radio comment on yesterday's video. I've done a typey reply, but I think it would be useful to do a video reply.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to jump ahead a little.
Isn't sufficient to call a person for the purpose of evaluating the experience that brain generates. And there's little brackets afterwards, which is quite important. It was important to me anyway. Reposted to correct pivotal grammar error. Now I'm hoping, because I don't get emails from YouTube anymore, I must have turned it off. Because normally you can see what the first version is and then the second version if they send you email, as I remember, but I don't know.
This mush. Okay, so yeah, he's just talking about, it's good that he did the me brain thing instead of the whatever, blah blah blah. Okay, let's get to it now.
Yeah. As the important thing, all our speech and all our everything refer to this my brain thing, which is an obvious wrong thing. I mean, I know a lot of people, you watch my videos, so you must be somewhere close to understanding what I'm talking about, and maybe even not agreeing, but being there.
Yeah, not on this subject. Yeah, like I said, I mean, yeah, so much. I say, okay, yeah, this is all methodical, it's logical, it's reasonable. Let's quit playing with these words, let's quit manipulating things, yeah. And then you get on this, and here you are saying, what in my opinion is an incredibly bold statement, that we are to negate all arrangement and all function of all things in the universe, and we are only to consider, do the quanta feel. I mean, if I can't show you the quanta screaming, or the atoms screaming, or some smaller bit screaming, the constituent parts screaming, then I cannot claim any function, manifestation, force, creation in these more complex entities. And it's like, why are you doing that? Again, what is arrangement is, there's two aspects to existence. There is the quanta, the things, the bits moving at the speed of light all over the place. That's all they are. That's all let's say that's all the universe is. Little dominoes flipping. Flip, 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 flip. They're just flipping all over the fucking place. And that's constituent one, is the dominoes, the bits of quanta flying at the speed of light. The only thing in the universe. That's what I believe. If you break it all down, that's all you'll find, is photons, so to speak. That's it. Nothing else. So it's all made out of. That's the E equals mc squared. It's all photons. The c squared is that's the speed of light squared. Huge number of little tiny bits in every little atom. Yeah. So that's what the universe is made out of. This is the physical thing. And the only other thing there is the arrangement of the dominoes. And it's just, I can't find any purpose in saying the arrangement is irrelevant, because it is not chaotic arrangement. The arrangement falls into the specific patterns. It is forced into them. And it itself may not be saying, I'm going to be an idea in somebody's head, but it will be an idea in somebody's head. It doesn't think so, but it will become that, because that's the road it's going to be forced to drive by the circumstances of the arrangements around it. The arrangements around it are going to force it. It's like I force my dinner onto the plate. It doesn't say I want to go to the plate. I force it there. This arrangement imposes arrangement on other piles of matter and forces them into arrangements.
But in the normal world, you can say my brain with it'll never even it won't even make a little spike. It'll be fine to say my brain. So I don't get why this collection of programs, some of which generate feelings for my brain, isn't sufficient to call a person. So that I would jump on and say, that's the end of that. You said my brain, you have sinned, banish thee to the other side of the world. So, but I'm pretending Skid Row Radio has put it to me brain instead. But what we get is, I don't get why this collection of programs, some of which generate feelings for me brain, isn't sufficient to call a person. What I've zoomed in on this time is some of which generate feelings for me brain. Now, the crucial word now, which in my comment I've acknowledged sounds initially petty, is the for. Some of which generate feelings for me brain. Some of which generate feelings for me brain. This is taking things on another step. So
So we're gonna. You're saying, okay, I'm clinging to words, and then you cling to the words. You kind of imply that this is kind of petty and it's kind of stupid, and but now you're going to say no, it's entirely hugely complex and important. And I don't think it is. Okay, obviously the program, okay, the thing doesn't do it for reason. It doesn't have a brain. Okay, the program doesn't have a brain. It obviously can't be doing it for something, in the sense that it can't have a volition or a purpose understood. Now, whether we, as this complex arrangement, can say that once we have gone through this filtering process, and that's what it is, it's filtered, it gets finer, and finer, and there's some point where the intelligence can say, this sentence will be spoken for a purpose. The purpose is a collection of understanding, saying the purpose is to convince, person A that they're being, that they're being way too. They're taking the rational process of dissection to an irrational extreme. Okay, so that's the purpose of these sentences that are being thrown out of my collection, and it doesn't really matter whether it's just a collection of programs that have decided to do that, whether it's my left butt cheek that have decided to do that, in the sense of deciding that some trigger went and said, okay, go nail him with that sentence. They didn't say, go nail him with that sentence. Right. They didn't. There's no mechanism in here that has all the volition. The volition is spread over a bunch of mechanical processes. Just like telling time is spread over a bunch of mechanical processes that in the end will tell time. But the fact is they are telling time. And the fact is that the collection of processes inside of me are right now doing something for the reason I just explained. And they're not just universing anymore. They're doing a very narrow function. They're not swimming in the pool, and they're not cutting the grass, and they're not doing some other bullshit. They're doing this specific thing. And now you're saying I can't use the word for, even though they're doing an incredibly specific thing for the objective of a specific outcome. They're totally the whole mechanism is producing a for effect thing. They are trying to cause an effect. I mean, you know, to negate that as nothing is just bullshit. It's obviously a something process. It's not the universe universing. It's not chaos. It's not nothing. It's an arrangement. It's specific. It's highly filtered. Come on. Bullshit.
You might struggle to understand, but some of which generate feelings for me brain, these programs, what I would say is they are not, and never do, create feelings for anything. And this is
okay. So again, so now we're back. Let's go. You know, I used an analogy. Let's go back to the original point of the statement, which is our feelings. How are they generated? Okay, we know how they're generated in pieces. Again, components combine. They create in this whatever this illusion space of consciousness, this plane of consciousness, this veneer of consciousness, this thing that everything goes through and back. That's called sense data. Yeah, so it goes. It throws these feelings into consciousness. So now we're back to the hard problem. Why do we feel? We wouldn't need to feel. If it were just a calculating device, it could just simulate the idea that, okay, well, you don't need to give me that feeling. Just turn the light on over there, and I'll know that means pain, and then I'll react to it appropriately. So why is it this thing that flies into consciousness of sensation? Well, that's because the consciousness is reading it. It's a receiver. It is receiving it. So in a way, it's throwing the feelings because there is a receiver. There is something for it's foring at. Okay, it's doing it for the purpose of saying, hey, receiver, here's some pain. You have to react now. So from the perspective of the mechanics, there is a for purpose. It is for the purpose of throwing into the conscious space this sensation, so it now will have to orient itself. It will now have to focus upon, okay, the focus now will have to be changed to be aware that sense data is coming in saying ouch, 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 and you have to do something about it. So that's what it's for. What it's for is to say, hey, Mystic! It's to get your fucking attention. That's what those sensations are for. They're to say, brain, concentrate on this now because we have something important to say. Okay, it's time to get us some, or it's time to run like fucking hell, or whatever the thing is, but it's saying, I'm gonna take your attention. That's the purpose. That's the for purpose. To seize attention.
an absolutely crucial understanding to what I think. I'm being modest this morning, because it's only 6:30. Nothing does anything for anything. It's not that I'm saying that everything's selfish, but nothing ever knows what it's doing, so it can't do...
Okay, so you're going to play with words, and then you're going to throw in a word like nothing ever knows. I mean, you've got to know that I can say to you, well, look, the word knows is something we invented, okay? It's like this idea of, okay, I have knowledge of. And so, of course, something can have knowledge of in the sense that it can have a huge number of arranged programs that are, in effect, knowledge of. They are. It is knowledge of that enables cars to stay on the little roads. I give you a little time lapse of cars staying on the road, right? They just go around on the roads and they all stay on the road. And how they do that? Because there's knowledge of. It exists in the things controlling the cars.
Do anything for anything. And the programs, you think of it that way, that's the reason they don't do it for anything. But even if they knew what they were doing, which they don't, they wouldn't be doing it ever for anything. There aren't programs or programmings running that are doing anything for the
Well, again, who's arguing that they are? So now we're, in this straw man position. Who's arguing that the program thinks? The program can't think. The program is part of a thinker. Okay? And the thinker knows in the sense that it does tell time. Right? Clocks don't know how to read time, but they know how to force time. They know how to correlate it in the sense that their knowledge is built into them. They produce a representation of time passing. Okay, it's just a fact. And our programs don't know what they're doing in the sense that the program that recognizes equality, substantive equality, those programs. Well, those programs themselves don't know shit, but when they're put in the context of the map of reality, that little bit is a nice correlate to the map of reality. It fits. The rest of the pieces agree it should be there because it fits. And so yes, it is now representing the whole pie that is the pie. I mean, the pie plate isn't the pie, the crust isn't the pie, the stuff in the pie isn't the pie, right? The pie is the collection of those things, and once you have that collection, you have a goddamn pie. And once you have the correlate programs, you have the knowledge of the thing.
Common good. Yeah. Nothing you see in life does anything for anything. That's, I think, true. But also, they don't do anything for any common good.
Right. Quanta don't walk the dog on purpose. Okay. Yeah, everybody can agree. Yes, okay. Quanta don't. But brains. 100 billion neural network. Functioning thing. With lots of filtered and specific functional correlates to actual reality and modeling the forces involved. That does for. That does, in a sense, in its end product, mimic exactly what 4 would look like if you could make a real 4.
It just so happens that...
There we go. It just so happens. So now for the rest of this video, it just so happens. It's going to be all over the place. It just so happens. So now we're going to use all this specific language, and then you're going to throw an it just so happens. So in a cause and effect universe, all of a sudden it just so happens. It doesn't it just so happens. It happens for a reason. So don't just say it just so happens. What do I do with that? That is as much a woo-woo religious kind of bibble-babble as anything. You're sitting there catching people on for and person and all these specific words, and then you say something like, it just so happens. Oh, come on. Shenanigans.
After billions of years of evolution, things hang around to do things again that have done things that happen to have done things, seemingly for things or for a common good.
Right. And that works only because that works for its survival. It won't survive if it didn't do these specific things in the specific game it's playing. So it had to play the game the specific way to survive playing the specific game, and now it's been programmed to keep playing the way that worked in the past. And so it just keeps taking what works in the past and keeps moving it another day into the future and seeing if it'll work again with slight modifications. And so the slight modifications that change the behavior in some way will win, and then there'll be a new filter stating this is what you need to do to be a survivor. And so over time, survival has been dependent on the certain 4 things. But now you're arguing that the idea of doing for the purpose of fixing a brokenness in the model of our understanding of the real world, and the 4 like, I like my sister and I don't want to get hurt, so I'm going to protect her. Like, you're saying those 2 things are the same thing, and they're not. They come from different brain space. One is a personal initiative, of biology almost, and the other is a thought, a reasoned perception developed through memes and the evolution of memes and ideas and notions. So again, this is a way too sloppy.
Now that's an awful lot of very intricately specific words in there, and I maybe should better stop there, because do you understand the specificity of that?
Yeah, but again, it's not very specific in the sense that there's all kinds of flaws in what you've taken a giant leap over to get there. You've cut out a whole bunch of really important facts about evolution and the filtering it does and the constructions that come out of that filtering. It's not just saying, it's not just the bit anymore. Again, it's forcing things into specific patterns of function. Specific patterns of function. Yeah, that's there. I'll use that as my statement. Specific patterns of function.
There's no program that's working for itself or for me, this thing, not even for the body, not for the brain. It's not working for anything.
Well, I think it's just really splitting atomic hairs to sit there and say it's not working for, because everything it does is basically to model that exact thing. It's modeling it perfectly. It couldn't be more of doing exactly that. You're saying it's just universing. Well, I'm saying no, it's universe being forced to universe in exactly the way the universe would have to be configured for you to have a brain obsessed with your welfare.
Can you understand that? I'm sure you can. No cell. This is just a slightly different example. I'm not saying brains are cells, or they are, but no cell is working for anything. Nothing is working for anything.
Again, clocks do tell time for the purpose we have forced them. We've forced the matter to serve that purpose. We have forced the matter to serve that purpose. That's what our collection, our arrangement of matter has done. It would be silly to say that it hasn't been constructed for that purpose. It has been constructed for that purpose, to do that foring thing. So this word is dangerous, it's sloppy, it's messy, and I think I can just flip it right back on you and crush you under it.
Everything you see, from trees to cockroaches to everything, is there because it just happens to.
It just happens. It just happens to be there. There's no collection of arrangements and forces. There's no circumstantial environment that are going to force it to be there and force it to be in that shape. No, it just happens to be. No.
Work. This is why I talk about the game. There's no game being played, so there's nothing to work for. Nothing.
Again, so there's no game to be played. So again, just keep reducing it until you take away the game. That's right. From the pawn's perspective, there's no game in the sense that you could take every piece of a chessboard. You could just say, well, there's no game if I take all the pieces and I send the little red square. I'll send this one to Croatia, and I'll take this little red square and send it to China, and I'll take this. Yeah, I could send them all over the world. Now there's no chessboard. There's no game. But I only did that because I broke it. Okay, I had to break it to do that. You can't say there's no game if you leave the game intact. If you acknowledge that evolution has conformed us into specific arrangements, and then these specific arrangements have specific functions, well, if you retain all of that, there is a game.
Things working for anything. Now, I suppose you lot think that you work for something that all these programs working together can then work for something, but it can't. There can't be anything working for anything.
Well, again, so it says, I mean, you're just, again, so he just did it right in our faces. So he just basically said, I don't care how specific the arrangement is. I don't care how specific the function is, like a laser beam, the light shoots out of the end. I don't care. Okay, it doesn't really exist. It isn't really conformed. It isn't really shaped to produce light that comes out at a specific frequency and is properly polarized, or whatever the right word is, aligned.
Everything that you see, inevitably, another word meaning every single time, everything, is just working. Now, that's...
Yeah, just working by cause and effect. And again, yes, if you're going to negate properties, okay, then again, this is just like somebody making the argument that there's more empty space in matter than matter. Well, there's no matter in matter anyway, okay, there's just energy if you want to be that reductionistic about it. But clearly the matter is matter. You don't walk through walls. Because in spite of the fact that most of the matter isn't there, it's fucking there. And when we're arranged, our arrangement is an arrangement. And it doesn't matter that the individual bits of the arrangement don't know they're part of the arrangement. It doesn't matter if the soldiers don't know they're part of the war. They're still a soldier, and they're still marching, and they're still heading for the opposing force. Whether they know it or not, that's what they're fucking doing.
Sounds like a semantical, pinny-pointy thing.
Yes, it does.
There's nothing working for anything, just because this is complex. What we've got is, it appears to work for something.
Yeah, so, again, if it looks like an army, and it shoots like an army, and it smells like an army, and it rapes like an army, and it pillages like an army, and it eats like an army, and it shits like an army, and it digs trenches like an army, and it shoots bombs like an army, it's not an army. Whatever.
But there is no actual working for. I'll have to repeat this a couple of times. I've said this so many times, like about will. There appears to be will, but there is no will.
It's a wrong word, okay? I mean, look, when you talked about free will, that would make sense, okay? There is no free will. Fine, there's no free will, okay? But the idea of will is just recognizing the fact that we end up with a dominant set of initiatives. Our focus is moved to places, and then there's another mechanism of will that says go. Okay, and that's what we're calling will. Okay, there's cold water to jump into, you stand on the edge of the diving board, you make some rationalizations, you say it's going to be okay, and then your will can now engage and you will yourself into the water. That's the use of the word will. And it's not free, but to say there's no will now, so if the big mistake. I mean, I can see the argument against free, but you can't tell me I don't have a will. My brain is willing all the time.
Appears to be even anger, but there is no anger. It's just named afterwards.
Well, when it's named is irrelevant. It's a function. So this is just how bad it gets in terms of semantics. It's just named after, to describe its function. So So anyway, it's just more of the same. I'm out of time, so I'd play the whole thing, but no point making a 6-hour video. But it's just more of the same. It's all named after. There is no anything, nothing.